Mythos Busters, investigating the mystery, monsters, and madness of Arkham Horror, the card game.
Hello everyone, and welcome to BusterCon. We're doing this as a live recording. Let's make everyone at home a little bit jealous. Wonderful. Well, we just wrapped the first day of the first BusterCon, and it went so well, guys. We are so happy to have you here. And our capstone event for the evening, I am joined by most of the developers of Arkham Horror, the card game. Let's go with you last. Hi, Jeremy. How's it going?
Great. Thanks for having me. Hey, I'm Jeremy Zwarn. I've been working on Arkham for, I don't know how many years now, 4 or so, or 5, or something like that. And I'm not full-time anymore, but I'm still involved, so it's always fun to be working on an awesome game.
Wonderful, thank you. Also joining me, I guess let's go from the outsides in, it's, or you love her, it's MJ.
Why, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm MJ Newman, or Maxine. I'm one of the co-creators of Arkham Horror, the card game. So, you have me to thank for all of those autofails.
I suppose, well, we didn't even start in chronological order here. I'm just a mess. So let's go with Duke. Hey, Duke.
Hi, that's my name. I'm Duke. I'm also a designer on Arkham Horror, the card game, and it's amazing to be here with you all. Y'all are great.
And last, but not least, it's Nick.
Hello. I'm Nick. If you listen to the podcast, you already know me, but I'm the newest designer on Arkham Horror, and it is so wonderful to be here at the first BusterCon and not have to do as much work as the rest of the Busters either, so that's great. Thanks for coming, everybody.
So to be fair, you have been a tremendous help, though, so thank you for that. Well, we have a panel, a nice little calm, chill conversation that we're going to have with you guys here. So we've got a couple of conversational topics that we're going to cover here, and then at a certain point, we will open up to questions from the crowd for the developers. So go ahead and think about those. Of course, as always, bear in mind that none of the developers up here are able to speak on any future or in development Arkham projects. So, let's keep it present tense. All right, well, let's get started. Guys, I know you've all been here for varying parts of the first day. I know some of you actually have jobs to do. How's your con day been so far?
I mean, it's been awesome, like seeing everyone coming together. I got to walk around and see you all playing the Blob and defeating the Blob, doing other amazing things. So, I don't know. I'm really impressed with the turnout this year.
Me too. Anyone else, Nick?
Thank you, Sean.
Oh, I saw you crossing your arms.
It's my natural state. See, I'm even doing it now. I didn't get here until later, but I got to play in the Blob, which was a lot of fun. I haven't played that one in a while. One of my favorite of the epic multiplayer scenarios, because it scales so well for epic multiplayer. And we lucked out we had a couple of very generous donations. How many countermeasures did we end up having whole? Do we know? Like total? It was a lot. It was like 300? At one point we hit 288 and we ended at 219. So we had 288 and we ended at 119. That's a first. I've never seen it go higher than like 30. So great job. That's awesome.
That's fantastic. Maxine, I know you've been a little in and out, but having a good time so far?
Yeah, as the resident introvert, I've been like, I need some time. But yeah, no, this has been amazing. Like, I love seeing everyone playing the game and like having fun, and playing epic multiplayer scenarios. The donations, like, I'm blown away, honestly, and like, thank you guys so much. So yeah, it's awesome. I'm looking forward to my second to ever Iron Man. That's gonna be fun. Yeah.
Who are you playing in Iron Man?
Amanda. She's cool. I like her.
I was gonna play Amanda, but every time I mentioned it, I heard Scott go, really?
Okay, my issue is that I have 80 experience of cards picked out. And that's not gonna happen. Although I could probably modify the rules, like, on site, right? So, I have gained the audience's permission to cheat. Thank you.
Wait, you planned out experience and upgrades for this? Oh, no.
Duke, is this your first Iron Man?
No.
I like your style. Who are you playing tomorrow?
I'm playing Trish.
Ooh, good choice, good choice. That, ultimately, when Amanda was bandied about, Trish is where she landed. So we've got Justin playing Trish in our group, too. Nick, how about you?
I am playing on Duke's team, so I'm pretty nervous. But I am playing Sniper Soak Tommy. First time trying to run. Thank you. I know it's quite an accomplishment that I haven't done yet, but first time trying to run the full sniper build and bringing a lot of soak. I'm hoping that can keep the team clear. So we'll see. We'll see.
Jeremy, I don't know for sure. I don't believe you're joining us for Iron Man. If you were to play an Iron Man investigator through Innsmouth in one day, who would it be?
Oh, that's a good question. There's so many choices now. I guess go with one of my all-time favorites, just Parallel Roland. I just love the versatility and power, and yeah, clearly Nick agrees.
It's a very solid choice. So I think I want to move a little bit into some actual developer questions here. One thing that I know we've talked about a bit as we've talked to you guys in pieces and in whole is one thing that fascinates me is the development of traits within the card game. Because at least under the kind of FFG wheelhouse design of card games, traits kind of play this really big role of both establishing a theme of mechanics and things. Search for them. They kind of dictate deck archetypes. I'll start first with Maxine because you were there at the beginning. What kind of thought goes into when you know you're building this game to ideally last for years and years? How do you wrap your head around like trying to establish a baseline of traits to develop, and kind of what thought goes into that?
Yeah, this was like every game has its own like rules with regards to traits or subtypes or whatever they're called in that particular game. And I knew going into Arkham, I knew I wanted to have like lots of subcategories that I could sort of call upon. So it's like, item, weapon, firearm. Those are all, and it can get a little out of control, right? But I think it's worth it because then you can, it's like future proofing. Like down the line, we can be like, okay, this card targets only firearms, but wait, it would be more powerful if it targeted all weapons, that kind of thing. But we have a lot of traits that are also just flavor. Like they have no game significance at all. None of the traits have any rules attached to them, mind you, but some of them are very specifically like these cards are going to do this kind of thing so that we can, call back to that in a future card. But then other ones are just like paradox, like that's just a fun word. I just like it. Like, I don't know. So yeah, we tried our best to kind of lay the groundwork so that we could have those traits and then like add new ones if we need to without it getting weird. But in any game, there's always going to be moments where it's weird, where it's like, why is this character a socialite and this one's not? It's like, because we didn't think of it. Sorry. Like, you know what I mean? But we tried our best to lay that groundwork and future proof for all of our future ideas. But, we're not psychic. But at least, like, it's not like, why does Legolas not have the archer trait? That kind of, yeah.
Are there any notable ones that got cut or consolidated in the early game?
No. but that's mostly because they kind of just let me run wild, you guys. Like I'm a big proponent of lots of traits, so they kind of just let me do that. So no, not like that. But there were definitely ones that we should have added in like the core set and forgot to. So if anything, I erred on the side of too few.
So to you other guys, what is your experience coming into a game that has been established, has a lot of those that groundwork laid? How do you pick up what exists and expand upon it? What's that experience like?
I mean, as you just heard, Maxine laid the groundwork pretty well as far as traits go. And I think what's interesting is that through the development of the game, different synergies, different personalities have emerged of like play styles or different things that each of these traits call out. And it's those synergies, like you don't want to build the game around those synergies, but allowing them to have, like, they sort of are giving a gift to yourself, to the future of the design of the game, where you can put down a trait on something and then suddenly think, oh, that's where that is going to come into play with this card design, or wait, maybe this investigator wants that trait. Like, how can we rethink like the paradigm that's not just based on classes or the basics?
I would add to that as well and say that it's exciting because I feel like there's a lot that can still be mined from traits, and there's a lot of things that we can do to further develop those as well. And so it's just been very exciting coming onto that and exploring that.
How long till the dinosaur trait?
I want to say there's one hidden in the game already, but that is obviously not true. Or is it? I'm biding my time.
Yeah, I love traits. I could consider myself a trait junkie. I think it's great to have plenty in the game, and it definitely opens potential design space. Like, we haven't leaned into quite a few that we could. And I think like investigator traits are very interesting to maybe explore that someday. And it also helps tell the theme of the game by putting traits on cards that it might not do anything mechanically, but it helps tell the story a little better by having traits that feel right.
You ever run up against a situation where you have an idea and a trait and it kind of comes too close to something else, that like stepping on the toes of other traits? That sort of thing ever happen at all?
It's definitely happened before, and usually if we can catch it in like early design, we can kind of tweak it so that like the art, now it's a spell, right? Like the same 2 cards in 2 different classes with 2 different traits, even if the game text is the same, they're going to show up in totally different decks and totally different contexts. So that's like a really useful tool for us as developers to be super lazy. No, I mean, it's for us to, I'm joking, for us to really explore like, there's only so many cards we can do that have like resource generation, but we can tweak them in such a way that they show up in very different decks in different ways. And like also their themes can be totally different. So yeah, traits are a tool for us to use. And sometimes like some of my favorite moments when we're peer reviewing cards is we'll think and be like, can we add like this trait to this card? And then we do, and like it changes everything. All of a sudden this card is completely different in so many different ways because like this card and this card and this card all interact with it, And that's really fun. It's like a plan coming together in the last minute. Yeah. Examples. Off the top of my head, I'm having trouble thinking of some. Like some traits are obvious, right? Like an item's always going to have the item trait. We're not going to forget that. But like, then there's some traits that are very abstract. So, yeah. But off the top of my head, I'm having trouble thinking of one.
It's completely forgivable. Were you crossing your arms again, or did you have something to say?
No.
Okay, all right, it's fine. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about Scarlet Keys, if that's cool with y'all. I think there's lots of different things to be said. The one thing I have completed Dissonant Voices for the Scarlet Keys, which is possibly the biggest project I've ever had under the oh yeah, thank you. For anyone who's curious, it is a total runtime of 7 hours and 35 minutes of edited audio. almost twice the size of Edge of the Earth. Now, we got intros because it's all separate entries, but I'm still counting it. Anyway, what's really fascinating is when you go through, and I don't know how many people do this because my position here is weird, but when you go through and actually read that thing cover to cover like a book, it kind of reads a little bit like a dream. Like, characters come in and out, and they're doing nonsense things, and you kind of like slowly grasp things that are going on and possibilities, and it's all just kind of like this very ephemeral experience. But I guess one thing that really stuck out to me was the personality that became apparent for all of the members of the Coterie, and to some extent the members of the Foundation, but I think the members of the Red Coterie are like really the stars of the show. You guys come from a fair few different perspectives. Were those characters lifted from prior Arkham products? Were some created new? Kind of what was the...
Yeah, so the Scarlet Keys was kind of like our, I hesitate to use the word reboot, but it's like our sort of re-implementation of the Red Coterie, which originally were featured in the Call of Cthulhu LCG in a few different expansions, but one cycle primarily. And a lot of their story back then, there wasn't a huge avenue for narrative in that game. So a lot of it was like sort of environmental storytelling, I guess is what I would call it. Like, you kind of piece together what these people are doing and how they operate based on just mostly artwork and card titles, which is really cool. But basically, we had this huge amount of art of these people, and we wanted to use them, and not just use them, but really kind of focus on who they are and what they're doing and what they're after, but not just tell the same story that Call of Cthulhu LCG did. So we had a couple of them featured in like previous player cards, like Third Time's the Charm, and of course the man with the red glove man. But but we really wanted to do a lot more with them, and kind of because there's such like ripe material for storytelling, and you can see that in the Secrets in Scarlet short story anthology, where they all like feature a part in there. But yeah, it, like you were saying, they all feel very different. We wanted to feel like they're not the same kind of cult that you're used to in Arkham, where they're all kind of single-minded and, you know, working under like some enigmatic ancient one. These are real humans with their own motivations that just happen to be part of the same cool secret society. So yeah, some of them are from there, like the Red Gloved Man. Some of them are totally brand new that we invented purely for the Scarlet Keys, and for future use. Like, hopefully that won't be the last time they ever show up. They're really cool. Yeah.
Now, Duke, in getting to know you, I know you have lived and traveled to a fair few places. How has your like lived world experience kind of informed your work on the Scarlet Keys, which was so globe-trotty?
Well, I mean, I came on to the project. I wasn't working on Arkham proper at that time. And I came onto the project while Maxine was just so busy building the world, building the scenarios, and like doing a lot of writing. And I was like, please let me write for this game, please. And she carefully allowed me some different pieces at first before I came on as a designer. But like, yeah, if you'll see, there's a plot line. When I saw the map, I saw Manokwari. I grew up in Papua in Indonesia for a bit of my childhood, and I was like, what? I've been there. I flew in there into this little town, and it's in the game. What? Can I write it, please? And then she let me build a whole storyline with Dewi and stuff like that. So yeah, I remember one of the things that sticks out to me when I go to a different place. I've been really lucky to get to travel all over. I taught English in Laos, Mongolia, and grew up over in Indonesia and Laos. And one thing that sticks out to me is vividly, like we latch onto memories through smell. That's actually the most vivid smell that you associate with memories. And every time I think of these places, I mean, of the sights, the sounds, everything else, but the smell, the feelings, it kind of conjures something different. And so writing for the Scarlet Keys, I was always thinking, like, what are the sensory experiences that you'd have there? that really gets you into those places. So that informed a lot of the writing that I got to do for different locations in the Scarlet Keys.
If I may add to that, also, like, we knew that this was going to be our big globe-trotting adventure, and probably one of the only big globe-trotting adventures we ever do, because this is Arkham Horror. So it was important to us that, like, those places that you go to feel like those places, even though a lot of them we've never been to. I've never been to. It can't just feel like Arkham, but in this continent. And the first time I read you did the Stockholm story, and then what was it paired with? It's Stockholm and...
was it in Bombay?
Bombay, yes. And, like, I had no idea what that was going to be. I was like, I don't know, do something. And he was like, yeah, I have an idea. And then I read it, and I was like, oh my God, like, I want to go to Stockholm now. That place sounds awesome. So, like, I think you did a stellar job, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Oh, wait. It was also very fun to write about food in the cafes. So if you've gotten the achievement, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, the sensory language, the I don't know, I'll just go with sensory language in Scarlet Keys is very strong. You really have a strong sense of place, particularly obviously in the scenarios when you're seeing locations and you're seeing layout, but even in the entries that are just pure prose, it's got a really cool flavor to it. Do you guys have, kind of returning to the Red Coterie, let's go there. Do you guys have a favorite member of the Red Coterie? We'll start with Jeremy.
I guess maybe obvious choice, Red Glove Man. I don't know, just so cool. Like, I played Call of Cthulhu LCG, so it's fun to kind of learn more kind of backstory in the Red Glove Man and see what he would appear and do like in this game. So yeah, maybe it's too easy to answer, but
it might be too easy of an answer, but it's mine as well. I never knew the Red Glove Man from the Call of Cthulhu LCG. I only knew him from Arkham Horror. And as an ally, and so I was like, oh, that's cool. They're making a campaign about this group that he's from. And then scenario 1, oh, he's a bad guy. That's interesting. And so that really kind of hooked me from the start as like, okay, well, what's really going on? Why can I take him in my deck and he's also fighting me? Like, what does this mean? So that was really exciting to explore for me.
At 2 RGM?
No, not for me. At 2. I have 2 actually for different reasons. Thorn was really fun to write. I had so much fun writing Thorn, and they're just super cool. And Susan Yang, because I love my psychopathic, crazy coterie member. I just wanted to make a character that players would love to hate, and that would feel very earned when that character got their comeuppance.
When I was working on the Scarlet Keys specifically, it was definitely La Chica Roja. She was so much fun to write. And like, yeah, I'm a big fan of Carmen Sandiego.
Yes. Where in the world is... But I have to particularly call out because, first of all, doing dissonant voices for the reading aloud, there were a lot of words that I had to look up, and there were a lot of words that I am 95% sure that I slaughtered. So for everyone out there who reads it and goes, I'm sorry, I did my best. But there was a particular passage for La Chica Roja, and I can't remember the words in Spanish, but it translated to... What, an asshole in a cloud of farts? So watch for that.
I was literally about to say I loved looking up like incredible insults in Spanish and slipping them in there because that was, to me, like, that's her character. She's very like funny and tongue in cheek and like also like really heroic. Like she's my favorite. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. And also, like, I love the depiction in a lot of the text of her, like, playing with her hat and, like, obscuring her face and doing cool stuff like that. She's so cool. I want to be her. But also, then, when I was writing for Secrets in Scarlet, I absolutely fell in love with Amaranth. And like exploring her backstory and like how she became who she is, it's really cool. I love Amaranth, and yeah, that's about it.
So in designing, obviously the new campaign format has opened up a lot for the way that the game actually is conceived. But to do something basically, I'm willing to say completely nonlinear with the Scarlet Keys. You know, we've talked to you guys in the past about like the flow chart of decisions and how that. How did you nail it all down to a coherent decision tree?
I mean, honestly, because it's our full-time job. Like, but really, like it's a lot of work. There's a lot of effort that goes into every little thing that you wouldn't even think about. Like, and I'm sure that they can tell you now, having sort of gone through some of that themselves. Like, there's so much more planning and outlining that goes into these campaigns, especially now, than they used to. But yeah, the Scarlet Keys is way more open than I think we ever imagined we could do, and probably ever will do again. I mean, who knows? But yeah.
I mean, I'd hate to see you top it. I like you, and I'd like you to be healthy and keep your mind intact.
Well, I'm done, so yeah, they can top it. That's fine. Yeah.
I take that as a challenge for us to top it. No. Yes, we're going to. We're designing right after this, Nick. Let's go.
So, of the scenarios that you guys worked on in that one, is there one that you're particularly proud of? And maybe not even the whole scenario. If there's a specific piece or mechanic or how something was played out, is there anything you're particularly proud of?
In TSK? Or?
Yeah, sorry, in TSK specifically. Jeremy, if you'd like to start.
Yeah, I guess maybe a little bit biased. I'm a fan of the concealed locations. The concealed mechanics are really cool, so I was trying to think, what kind of twist could we do on that? And what locations should we conceal? Is that even possible? What would that look like? So eventually just started delving down that rabbit hole and try to figure something out. And yeah, we had a few different iterations there, but eventually we end up with something I think is pretty cool.
Since I came in like pretty late into the development of Scarlet Keys, I would say like the scenario that I got my hands in the most was Shades of Suffering. I know it is quite infamous at this point. I would say though, I was really excited to turn people's concept of a boss on their head with that one. I wanted to give players a boss that they would be like, what? They would be terrified to fight, and I think that worked. And I'm proud of that, but I don't want to hurt you all that much.
He's lying.
I'm a really nice person, I promise.
I think so. Riddles and Rain was the first scenario that I made, and then I moved immediately to Sanguine Shadows because I had that like system of trying to find her in my head the whole time that I was working on Riddles and Rain. Like honestly. Probably La Chicoto has the reason why concealed cards even exist in the first place. And I love that scenario because when I approached it like it's a game, obviously. But I mean, not that it's like a story like Act 1, Act 2, but like literally like a sport. Like first to 3 points wins, like that kind of attitude is how I approached it. Like she's trying to get to the thing, you're trying to get to the thing first, but you have to find her, you don't know where she is, you don't know which target she's after. I thought that worked really well. I think that's probably one of my favorite scenarios I think I've ever designed. Even if like narratively it's kind of just like this 3 times. But then that secret final act. That art piece of Kaimani, that's Kaimani by the way. Kaimani and La Chicoto standing side by side, looking at like the red sky. I think one of the maybe like the second or third piece we ever commissioned we commissioned that with the investigator cards. So yeah, it's so cool. I love that piece.
All right, so Nick, I want to turn off TSK for just a minute.
Oh, okay.
Go a little bit more general. I know it's tough because I'm sitting here next to you. I'm like, I want to ask Nick something, but he didn't work on TSK. And, we all love Excelsior, of course. But how has your experience thus far been affected, your acclimation to being a developer been affected by being kind of so ingrained in the community first? Is that, or kind of being a hardcore player first and foremost?
I entered into the position with a lot of opinions, some stronger than others, and it has been a good experience to when you come into a game from a position of a hardcore player to now suddenly be a designer on it and be like, what's the deal? Why is what's the deal with firearms? What's going on with this card? Why is blue so slow? Why is this? Why is that? And to not only have the opportunity to look at it from different angles, but also sort of be forced to as a designer, because I'm not just designing Guardian cards, I'm designing everything. It's done a lot to force me to reframe those opinions. I still love Shotgun. I'm always going to love Shotgun. It's a great card, but I think we can just let Shotgun be Shotgun. You know what I mean? So that's really what it is. This has forced me to look at the game from a much wider perspective, the perspective of both as a player and as someone who's trying to help usher it into whatever it's going to become in the future. That's vague and open enough that I'll just end there.
I just want to commend Nick because he didn't mention Shotgun until like 43 minutes in. That's great. That's really, honestly, that's great. No, I'm joking. But honestly, one of the best skills a designer can have is a broad perspective. And I think that you're doing an incredible job of broadening your perspective and all that stuff.
Just speaking as someone who's definitely worked the most with Nick on this, not you, but you don't count. Designing with Nick, Nick has just been a phenomenal designer to work with. That analytical acuity that you brought to the podcast has definitely translated into just some incredibly lively discussions where, lively discussions, when you're designing, you're not just designing in a vacuum or alone. When you're co-designing with someone, you want to be able to have that back and forth, that collaboration, that, hey, what about this? What about this? Wait, what about that? That we didn't take that into account. And you've just been a dream to work with.
This is all phenomenal. Thank you so much for saying that. He uses lively discussions because this morning I called him a coward, and not nicely. I was very adamant about it. But thank you so much, both of you.
I want to ask, but I can't.
I'll tell you eventually.
Okay, fine.
When I can.
It wouldn't be a design session without at least one major argument, I would say. Jeremy's still mad at me. I made Red Gloved Man an ally, I think. For those of you at home listening, he shrugged and then went, "That's fine." I don't believe him.
Okay, let me get a take two. I had a perfect segue, and in true Sean form, I completely flubbed it. So here we go as the second one. On the topic of lively discussion, the Scarlet Keys in particular has brought out the grumps in some people, and I count myself first among them. I have been a crab ass about certain things about it. I love so much about it, but there's some parts about it that, for me at least, just kind of seem a little bit out of reach. However, now after going through DV, I am so excited to get back to it. But obviously, discussion online is its own entity, and that certainly has an effect on the whole discussion everywhere else, I guess. I'm kind of curious, what is some of the most useful discussion or feedback that you guys have seen online in the past that possibly has either changed your design philosophy or changed the way you thought about a certain thing? Anything along those lines. To your mind, what does useful feedback look like?
Whew. There's a lot of things can be useful feedback. I think one thing, when we're playtesting, it's a very different environment than when people are playing at home. So sometimes I think it's cool to hit 4 interludes in a row without playing a scenario because I'm playing the game all day, so it's not a big deal for me. But I realize now, like, yeah, that's probably not the most fun. So yeah, that's a lesson learned. But I think the Scarlet Keys benefits from repeated plays, and like I knew that going into it. Like when you do an open world sort of experience like this, it's gonna be rough on that first playthrough. But there's so much to find, and there's so many different combinations of things that can happen. It's built to be maximum replayability, but replayability and like the best possible experience are actually kind of two ends of a spectrum. Like a crafted experience and a replayable experience are very different from one another. So that's just kind of the nature of that particular campaign, I guess. Does that? Sure. Yeah.
For those of you who say that there's too much reading, I hear you. You have been heard. I hear you. I promise.
To get to back to the question of what kind of feedback is useful feedback. Well, first of all, again, to echo what Max started with, a lot of it, almost all of it is useful feedback. We do read stuff, we do look into stuff, we do pay attention to what people are saying. It wasn't until I became a designer that I unmuted the channels on Discord of taboo discussion, campaign cryptography, player card discussion. But then I quickly had to mute them again because of all the alerts that I'm trying to work, and you guys keep talking about this stuff. So you have a lot of opinions, but we do pay attention to those. We do read those. We do, we discuss some of that stuff, especially the stuff that comes up a lot. So I just want to say, as far as the Discord goes, great job at having constructive, positive discourse about the game, and keep it up.
Actually, on that, it's important to note, like, we want to make a kind of game that we want to play, but we ultimately want to make the kind of game that you, the community, want to play. That is our goal, and so listening to you is paramount. Even if there's lots of tears, lots of exclamation marks, lots of emoji, whatever you're saying, again, we hear you.
That being said, a very common developer refrain is, give them what they want, but not necessarily what they think they want. Yeah, we want to surprise you.
That sounds tricky.
No, you basically have to be psychic, especially with how far in advance we work. I mean, the entire Dunwich cycle was done before the game came out. So, like, was it gonna be good? I don't know. We had our gut to go with. We had playtesters. We had the time and effort that we put into it, and we kind of just had to hope, like, this is going to be a hit, and thankfully it was.
Maybe sorry to one-up you, Maxine. A better way to put it might be, don't give the players what they want, give the players what they need.
Sometimes.
Sometimes? Oh, no.
No, I was going to quote.
Jeremy, how about you? What kind of feedback do you find most useful?
Yeah, I think it's great to have a lot of different perspectives. I mean, we have a huge community, so clearly, like I'm only one person, so clearly I have my own perspective and opinions, but it's great to hear from everybody, and especially like high player counts personally. I don't play a ton of 4-player games, so it's great to read feedback from people who do play multiplayer, especially 4-player, to get a different perspective, because solo to 4-player is a pretty different experience. So it's nice to be able, reach out to other people that play 4-player a lot and get a different feel for that.
If I may, one final note that I wanted to throw in there is, like, we design hopefully for everyone, and there's like a lot of different people who play this game, and they play this game for different reasons, and so what makes one person happy might not make someone. Oh no, it's back. Yeah, so what makes player A happy might make player C actually quite mad. So the trick is to kind of give everyone something so that everyone has something to latch onto that they love about the game, or about even just a particular scenario or a particular campaign. I would much rather have like a bunch of people love something and a few people not love it, then everyone be super lukewarm on, like, it's fine, you know?
Seems fair to me. So I think we're about to open up to some questions here, so get those ready. But one last thing I want to do, of course, before we get around to that, is a little bit of tentacle time. Nick just made the pog face. So what media, what else is grabbing your guys' time of late that you'd like to mention? Anyone got it up?
Don't start with me.
Don't start with Nick.
Zelda. Yeah, me and Duke have both been playing Zelda, comparing. Wait. Okay, yeah, just been playing a lot of Zelda and comparing stories with people because like half of the company is playing Zelda right now. Also, the PlayStation Showcase happened, and there's a lot of really cool. God. Alan Wake 2 got announced, or actually that was already announced, but we saw gameplay for the first time. That's awesome. Marathon. Oh man, there's so many cool games coming out. I'm gonna be playing video games until I'm like 112. So, yeah.
I've always imagined retirement homes for people our age are just going to be giant LAN parties. Assuming they still have LANs at that point. Anyone else? Yeah, you got it.
I finally remembered what I've been doing. I recently received a Kickstarter game that I backed a couple years ago, Final Girl Series 2, which is a great game. I skipped Series 1 because I wasn't sure about it, and then I heard amazing reviews, so I jumped on Series 2 as soon as it went to Kickstarter. It's solo only, which is awesome because that means I can play it literally whenever I want, kid parenting aside. But that's also kind of a detractor because it's like when I want to show it to somebody, I'm like, here, go play this and I'll do something else, I guess. But it's phenomenal. It's a really good board game. I highly suggest that if you're into horror films, like films specifically, you check it out because it has a lot of that. It pulls on a lot of those tropes.
Well, this is work related, but I'm just so excited to say Star Wars Unlimited. So it's definitely my main project right now. So I've been having a lot of fun working on that, and yeah, it's just a game I really enjoy because I love competitive games, and I do like TCGs and Star Wars, and it does draft really well. So yeah, it's just a lot of fun to play. So I can't wait for everybody else to get a chance to try it.
Yeah, as Max said, Tears of the Kingdom, I'm just all about that. I finish work, and then I go to my TV, and I play it till I can't see anymore. And then I wake up in the morning, and I play it till work starts, and then keep doing that. I don't know how I keep eating. I have a great boyfriend. What can I say?
Mad respect for waiting till work's done.
Yeah, right? One other thing I wanted to mention. For those of you who don't know, I have a book. It's called The Key and the Crescent. It's part of a series. And thank you. I'm bringing it up because I'm working on book 2. I've been working on book 2 this whole time, but I'm like really working on it now. I'm about halfway through. I do have a beta of the first act of the book if you're interested in reading it. And hopefully I will have an actual book at some point in the future that y'all can buy. And maybe some other cool things along with that. So we'll see.
Cryptic. All right, let's turn into the crowd. I'm gonna pick the first one, but Ian, could I enlist you to like queue up questions after this? Perfect. Who's got a question for your wonderful devs? You, sir.
What is each of your favorite encounter card and why?
Ooh, what is each of your favorite encounter card and why? I'll go first while you were thinking. It's Crumbling Precipice. Big up to someone died today, right? They must have left. Okay. No, it was you. Yep.
They died.
This is an easy question because there's so few of them. Joking, obviously. I mean, like I want to say Ancient Evils because it's classic, but actually I kind of... You guys just played Labyrinths earlier today, and there's a treachery that I love in Labyrinths. It's the paradox effect. I think that's one of my favorite cards we ever designed, and also like the artwork on that card is so cool, and it's also kind of a reference to the Zero Escape series, which is one of my favorite video games of all time. So yeah, I love that card. And if locations count, the cliffside road that you can just drive off of if you're not paying really close attention is amazing. I love that.
Get ready for that this weekend.
This is tooting my own horn, but it's definitely Deep One Hatchling. I hope you all, I hope they just chew on you.
You monster.
So I have two answers. The first one is the one that everyone expects me to say, and that is, of course, Noxious Fumes from Murder at the Excelsior Hotel. They're applauding, sir. And then my second one, my actual answer. I mean, that one was fun to design, and of course, that's the standout for me from that scenario. But my favorite one, when I think of like what's a cool encounter card, I think I go all the way back to Carcosa. And honestly, I can't remember the name of the card, but I remember the art. It's the woman in the tunnel pointing the gun, and behind her is that specter. Shadow behind you. Thank you. I just remember reading that card for the first time and being like, "This is the flavor mixed into the game text." It was chef's kiss. I loved it so much. So that was a great card.
I'd have to say giant penguin. No said.
And that's it.
I love how it's just the most annoying enemies and locations you can fall off of.
I do want to add that not only did Jeremy design the giant penguin, he also designed the achievement, Wuck Wuck Boom. So it's fine. It's fine.
We got another question?
Yeah, what's your favorite pet card? What pet cards do you have that like include? You like it?
What is everyone's favorite player pet card?
Weirdly, I didn't think of myself as a primary Mystic player, but Premonition, whenever I can put it into a deck, I just love Premonition. It's just fun. You know what you're going to get. It's sometimes the auto fail.
Similarly, Time Warp. 2 copies, every deck that can take it. I love that card. I don't care. I love that card.
I'm glad, because I'm sure it took a strong, abiding love to get through all the rules questions that caused for yourself.
No, actually, what I did was I just went, oh. No, for real, though, like, if this was a competitive game, I probably never would have made a card like that. But I don't know. I love designing cards that just make people's eyes boggle out of their head, right? Like, yeah, that's one of my favorites.
I have 2 answers. Okay. The first one is shotgun, of course.
You did the thing.
I did the thing. And then my actual answer, kind of, I guess, is also another core set card. It's Guard Dog. It's a good boy. It's an auto include, like my level. Sean and I just talked about this a little while ago. Any Guardian deck, Tetsuo Mori, Guard Dog, and my allies are done. Like, that's it. And Guard Dog has been in there since the beginning, and I have such a hard time not running him. So that's it.
This kind of a cop-out. It's definitely, it can be a very popular card. Jeremiah Kirby. I just love just how many cards can I fit in my deck that aren't even or odd? Do I put how many skills in my deck? I don't know. I just try to cram it in as many decks as possible, even if it's not the right deck. I'm vain.
Can you give us any teasers on the next campaign, whether it be content or themes?
Duke's Instagram?
Just go to my Instagram, Josiah Duke. You'll see a teaser. It's the first post you'll see. I mean, the last one. The latest one.
I think I can say this because it's super vague. It has the longest title. I'm not going to tell you what it is. That's it. Yeah.
Can you spoil how many letters? No. Okay. Spell it.
Prove it, Max.
Next.
Following regrets, do you have any cards or scenarios that you look back on and think
So do you have any design, scenarios or cards that you look back with hindsight and think, I might have done that differently?
I mean, probably about 500,000, yeah. But like the thing is, we can't dwell on it as designers. We have to have that forward-thinking momentum and like not really dwell on the cards that came out kind of like not the way we wanted them to. We often say that like if we had 20 years to work on a single cycle, we'd still be finding stuff that we don't like about it. Because we're perfectionists by trade, basically. Off the top of my head, I'm not. I don't even really want to call attention to any, but there's a lot. I mean, yeah. Hindsight's 20/20.
I mean, I will say one of the things I've learned from the reception of Shades of Suffering is that players don't like it when their actions get taken away for some reason. So, I think I've identified that pain point, and I think that's something I'll carry forward. That's a lesson I learned.
I would make Henry Wan even worse.
How do you follow that? I mean, the only thing that I can really talk about is Excelsior, but there are things that I would have done differently with Excelsior. No, not Noxious Fumes. I'm very happy with that where that card is. You should all... So I've said when we talked about Excelsior for the first time on the podcast after it came out and we discussed it, I had mentioned how one of my favorite cards in that whole expansion or in that whole scenario is the Harvested Brain, and that's like my favorite finale is the one where that comes out. And of course that was on the podcast, so that went out and people heard that, and then people on the Discord were like, "Oh, that's so interesting that his favorite finale is the only one that doesn't give you 2 victory points." And I was like, "Oh my God, it doesn't!" Like, here I am saying that my favorite one is the one that snubs you all of reward for your hard work. So, I mean, in hindsight, I'd go back and slap 2 victory on it. But, I mean, whatever. It is the way it is. I like it.
Yeah, looking back at Maxine through time, it definitely focused a bit too much on epic multiplayer. That was definitely want to make that really cool to different time areas and interactions and stuff. And yeah, single group mode definitely wasn't that big of a focus. So yeah, if we go back, definitely focus that more to make that a better experience.
In your defense, that scenario slaps in epic multiplayer. So, anyone not played that yet? Sorry, I'm having you raise your hands for 2 different reasons here, and that's a little unfair of me. Morton, I've passed you up twice. So in regards to permanents that modify your deck building rules, is it tricky to work in that design space?
Anytime we make a permanent card, they're very, very powerful. So we have to really have a deft hand and be very careful with them to not make them in the thick of it. But like for real, they're really powerful. That being said, yes, we have probably way more ideas for those than we will ever print, just because they're so cool and they're so like central to a deck archetype. And a lot of past card games have done stuff like that. I'm thinking like the agendas in Game of Thrones, the contracts in Lord of the Rings. They're really cool, and we definitely love doing them, but you have to be careful because they can really kind of warp the game experience. Yeah.
I mean, like, it's not just permanence. There are certain cards that you'll be designing that you think, I want players to build around this card, or I want players to think about this card as like something crucial in their deck that changes fundamentally how they approach the game. You can think of something like Soul Sanctification. Encouraging a completely different way of playing the build and healing in a new space. And that's definitely the goal. A lot of permanents will do that, and we take that very seriously.
Well
Well said.
Quick question about deck building, I guess also. How do you design knowing that not everyone is going to be going into a campaign with a full collection, like many of us have, balancing the fact that the density of really good cards or really strong cards might be really different for new players versus some of us veterans?
How do you design when you know that not everyone's working with the same card pool?
I mean, one of the things that I think we approach is, okay, can someone play this with just the core set and this expansion? That's definitely something that is at ground zero when we consider designing for any cycle. So that's a pretty fundamental part of it, is we hope that you can build, with those constraints. But obviously, like, there are more cards from other expansions that are going to expand your possibilities with that. But it should never be made with, okay, you have to have this expansion and this expansion to play this game, as far as player cards go.
Yeah, I would also add we rely a lot on our crack team of playtesters who are incredible and will offer that kind of insight, even if they themselves own like 3 copies of everything. So that's definitely important. But to a certain extent too, we want those players to want to go out and buy those other cards that combo with the cards that are in their deck. So we try to create a smattering of things in every new cycle that some of it's going to be like, this is a whole new sub-theme that is kind of self-contained within this cycle. And then some of it's just like, and then here's this card. And maybe that card is completely useless to you right now, but it makes you think. It makes you think like, ooh, this is cool. What other cards work with this? And then you look it up, and then you're like, oh, I need to buy Innsmouth. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. That's good. That's not necessarily a bad thing. As long as there's other stuff in that box that they can make use of, and it's not just entirely bad. Yeah.
It is quite a rabbit hole, isn't it? One thing leads to another, and suddenly you're at a con. Let's see. I think we got time for about 1 or 2 more questions. You, sir.
As a design team, I was wondering, how do you divide up the design duties? Does it mixed up, or does it say one person take the campaign and the other the player cards?
So as a design team, how does the duty of I said duty, I'm sorry. How how does the work get delegated on a campaign?
I'll say this, it was real easy for the first few cycles. Real easy. Honestly, it's just a lot of prep work and planning and seeing what everyone's full schedules are. For me, a lot of times the people I was working with, like Jeremy and Daniel Schaefer, they had other responsibilities. So it was a matter of figuring out, like, how much time do you have? Like, what can you contribute? So for example, for Innsmouth, you did, 2 scenarios? Two scenarios, but then you also did a bunch of player cards for the starter decks, which was around that same time-ish. And that was pretty much like, I think if I had given you another scenario, you would have too much on your plate, because you were also working on Star Wars Destiny at the time. It's different when you have a dedicated team that is like 100% only working on this game. That only started in Scarlet Keys, basically. And even then, it changed hands like halfway through. So I would say, like, that full, like, there's a team, there's a whole team, and they're dividing responsibilities, kind of didn't start happening until after Scarlet Keys. But even during Scarlet Keys, it was very much like, all right, what scenarios? Here's the scenario outline. Which ones interest you? And they're like, oh, I like that one. I don't know why that's the voice I chose.
No, that's me.
Oh, that's me. I like that.
Sorry. Yes, I do have a Mickey Mouse impression, and I'm not doing it on a microphone. I'll say, like, working with Nick, oftentimes it's definitely a team-based approach where we, obviously there's a scenario where, I really have a strong concept for this scenario. I really want to do this. And then, kind of identifying what the person is excited about is definitely the germ that I think should start everything. So when you're working with someone, you can kind of tell when their face lights up and they're like, oh, I like that. And you push them towards those those pieces. But also it just comes down to a very mercenary approach of like, please help, I need help with this thing that needs to be done now. So it requires a lot of trust and rapport. I hope that answers your question.
I will say that for my part of the experience, there wasn't a whole lot of, it wasn't like structured, like, okay, welcome to Arkham, you are in charge of this. Duke and I kind of found, I think we're pretty good about it now, but we kind of found what works best for our schedules and also like how we approach just remote work and stuff like that, because we do a lot of that now. And so now we have pretty clear ideas of what our weeks look like for the most part. But it definitely didn't start that way. It started much more like we're just like, okay, why don't you work on, this scenario? And I was new and I'm like, yeah, give me whatever. I'll do whatever. Let's just do it. But yeah, it's been a learning experience, I think, for both of us. And I think we've really hit our stride, I would say.
I'm excited to see the fruits, however long in the future that is. All right, Chris, I believe I passed you up last time. Let's close us out here. If you were a member of the Red Coterie, what would you make red? And what shade of red would it be?
Okay, but like, it took us a long time to come up with those, so like, I don't know if I have time right now. I'm actually thinking, I don't know.
Maxine could be the girl with a red nose ring. I don't know. Yeah, sure. It's very, ahead of its time. I have a pendant that I often wear. It's a tooth pendant. I'd probably turn that red. So it'd be like the Scarlet Claw. I don't know, something like that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You just came up with that?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yes, go to Jeremy, please.
I want a red shotgun.
I was trying to avoid that. But I mean, if you're offering. There we go, yeah. Red fart gas, that's what I want. No. If I was a member of the Red Coterie and I had a Scarlet Key of my own, it would probably be, I'm going to say a microphone. Because the microphone has defined so much of both my passion and now my career, now that I work remotely so much. It has done so much. I wouldn't be where I am without a microphone. I can't say the Red Mythos Busters, because that's not an item. That's, I can't do that. You know what? Scott's got a point. They are an item. Holy cow. But no, yes, I would say I would have a red microphone.
I like it. All right, well, you got one more?
Well, okay, so we already established that a key can be a living creature, right? So what if it was like a bird? Yeah, like the girl with the red robin. No, not that. Okay, the girl with the red, I don't know.
With the red pigeon.
Oh, that's really good, actually. That's really good. I like that.
All right, well, I think we'll close this up. I know I say this just about every time we do this, but I do want to thank you guys, obviously, for the game itself, which is a monumental thing, and I still contend that it is the best game in any medium that I'm playing at the moment. But beyond that, I think it continues to be something really special, how personable and engaged and involved in the community you guys are. You don't see that in any other game that I'd follow, I guess, but it's something special. So thank you guys so much for your time and your effort and your love, and y'all give it up for the devs.
I just want to turn that around and thank you and everyone here, because everything that you just said, that would not even be the case if it weren't for this community being so tight-knit and so accepting and so understanding and so welcoming. All things I was saying on the live stream when I got cut off. But this community is so good. I can't say enough. So thank you all for just existing. Yeah. Give yourselves a round of applause.
I just want to add, it is a total honor to make games for you all. You all are great.
All right, well, thank you for joining us for this very live episode of Mythos Busters, and we will see y'all next time.
Bye.
Thanks, y'all. Let's pack up and get out of here so they let us back in tomorrow.